wife's out of the country right now. This is one of 2 times in 35 years of public speaking that my wife hasn't been with me. A couple years ago was the first time. I was speaking out of state. My mom was 84 at the time, lives in Florida. I was speaking somewhere else. My mom knew my wife was out of the country. She called me at the hotel where I was staying from Florida, like she's checking up on me. My wife's out of town. She goes, "Hi, baby, how you doing?" I said, "Mom, I'm doing fine. Are you okay?" She goes, "Yeah, everything's fine." I said, "What are you doing calling me? How do you know where I'm at?" She goes, "What's the difference? What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "I'm working. I'm going down. I'm giving a lecture. I got to go down in about 20 minutes. She goes, "Oh, I don't want to." This is a true story. True stories are better than jokes. She goes, "I don't want to bother you. You go down. You go down and do your lecture. You go ahead. I'll call you later. Did you shave?" I said, "Yes, Mom, I shaved. I shaved." She says, "You got a nice shirt and a clean tie on?" "Yes." "Did you comb your hair?" "Both of them, Mom. I got to go." And then she said, "Is your fly up?" She said that. I said, "What are you talking? Are you reading off a list?" And you know what she said? "As a matter of fact, your wife mailed me one before she left the country. I'm supposed to call you all 3 days before you go out in public when you're at the hotel." I wish our moms would let us grow up. There's a dozen of them lined up along that wall and a dozen of them lined up against another wall. Huge Porsche collection, and this building had a lot of other stuff I'm going to show you in a second. I couldn't believe it. How about making a travel sign of all the places you've been to on your cruises, stick it out of the way in your garden, and have it so it can rotate? Do you know how many people will come over now and ask you about where you've been than just have dull conversation? "I didn't know you went to Greece and China and Bali. What was it like in Italy, Mexico, Japan?" You'll create a lot of conversation. You'll relive your travels just by putting one of these signs out in your garden. Dennis built this. He said he had a picture of Craig Breedlove in The Spirit of America on the wall. He said, "Ever since I was a kid, and Craig Breedlove set the world speed record at the Bonneville Salt Flats in his class, I always wanted to do that." Now take into consideration, this guy's 73 years old. Just a few years ago he did this, 2010, 3 years ago. He's always wanted to set the world record at the Bonneville Salt Flats. So he built this thing out of pocket. I can't imagine what it cost. And he did it. He went 340 miles an hour in this thing in 2010. It took 2.5 years to build from scratch, and it cost millions. Here's a picture of the car at Bonneville sitting on the salt flats. I love doing things asymmetrically. This house here used to have a flower bed right down the side of the house. Look what we did. It goes like this, and like this. Same thing on the other side. You look over here where I showed those shady plants and things with that swing. Flower bed used to be across here. I brought it right out into the path and back on both sides. So now it creates an entry into that sunroom, that little swing area. So don't do straight lines in your garden. It makes it inviting to move in all different directions. Look how far out we bought this, all the way out into the path and back. Used to have just a little planter box right along the side of that like everybody else. That's their doghouse. Their doghouse must be very special. Don't be afraid to do things asymmetrical. It adds a lot of character and interest to your garden or your yard, even a tiny yard. You can do this. This is a Panzer tank. Pretty rare. It's worth about $15 million. The engine in it is a Maybach, which is like a Rolls-Royce engine. It's a very rare, high-end car. It's got a Maybach engine. Now, Jacques had people all over the world looking for these tanks so he could buy them and put them in his collection. They heard a story about this one falling through the ice in a river in Europe. Well, his guys found out where, donned some scuba diving gear, dove down, and they found it. They brought it up, they shipped it back to this country, and $4.5 million later, here it is on the floor inside his collection. Why don't we hang the baskets on the ceiling, cover the entire ceiling in your guest bedroom with the baskets? Because after you've been married 40 years, when you wake up together in the morning, the last thing you look at is each other. So you're looking at the ceiling and you start talking about the baskets. Did you all enjoy this? All right, thank you very, very much. Now tomorrow I'm going to be...